Okay, what if I told you that the single most influential, most sampled piece of music in history isn't a famous melody you can hum or a guitar riff you know by heart? It's something else. A sound that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. A sound you've heard thousands of times without ever knowing its name. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the most important sound you've never heard of. We are talking about a tiny, tiny snippet of audio. Just 6 seconds long. But these 6 seconds became the literal DNA for entire genres of music. It has powered everything from legendary hip-hop anthems to video games and car commercials. So what on earth could be that influential? Nope. It's not the sound of a screaming Jimi Hendrix solo or that iconic opening to a Rolling Stones track. We have to look somewhere else entirely.
And it's not some beautiful piano piece from a classical master or a pop ballad either. The answer is something way more fundamental, something more primal.
That's right. The most important 6 seconds in music comes from a drum break, a short, explosive burst of rhythm that has been looped, chopped, and completely reimagined for over 50 years. This, my friends, is the story of the Amen break.
To really get how this all happened, we have to go back in time, way back, before samplers, before hip-hop, to a recording session in 1969 for a band you've probably never even heard of.
So let me introduce you to the Winstons. In 1969, they had a huge hit with a beautiful song called Color Him Father. It even won them a Grammy. But the real story, our story, is on the B-side. The forgotten flip side of the record. It was an instrumental track called Amen Brother. And about 1 minute and 26 seconds in, the band drops out, and for just a few seconds, the drummer, G.C. Coleman, plays a solo. He had absolutely no idea he was recording the future. So what made this one little drum solo so special? Well, the magic word is syncopation. It's basically the art of playing off the beat. It creates this incredible tension and release that just makes you want to move. And Coleman's performance, it's a masterclass. It creates a groove that feels perfectly imperfect, totally human. We can actually break down the magic here. First, there's the swing. It's got this loose, natural feel that isn't locked to some rigid computer grid. Then you've got these things called ghost notes, these super subtle snare hits that just make the whole rhythm feel full. But the real kicker, the thing that makes it so infectious, is in the fourth bar. Coleman throws in this offbeat snare hit that gives the whole loop a galloping momentum, always pushing it forward.
For almost 20 years, Amen Brother was basically forgotten. Just another record collecting dust in a crate. But then, in the 1980s, a new culture of DJs and producers in the Bronx gave it a second life, and they turned it into a global phenomenon.
So check out how this all unfolded. It gets recorded back in '69. Then, crickets for years. Until the mid-'80s, when hip-hop DJs started digging it up. The big moment was 1986, when it was put on a compilation called Ultimate Breaks and Beats, which was like a starter kit for every producer. From there, it just exploded. First, it became a pillar of hip-hop. Then, it jumped across the Atlantic to the UK, where they sped it up like crazy and created a whole new frantic genre called jungle.
Back in America, producers were using new technology, samplers, to loop the break over and over. They'd often slow it down, giving it this heavy, aggressive, rolling groove. And of course, the most famous example is NWA's Straight Outta Compton. That menacing backbone of the track, that's the Amen break. And this right here shows you just how incredibly versatile this break is. American hip-hop slows it down for that aggressive feel. But in the UK, jungle producers sped it way up to like 170 BPM, chopping it into tiny little pieces and rearranging it so it sounded like chaotic machine gun fire. The very same 6 seconds, creating two completely different worlds. It's wild.
But this is where the story takes a really dark and tragic turn. Because while this 6-second loop was generating millions of dollars and building entire cultures, the people who actually created it, they were left with absolutely nothing.
Let's just talk numbers for a second. Officially, the Amen break has been used in over 6,000 songs. 6,000! But honestly, the real number, if you include all the uncredited and underground tracks, is probably closer to 20,000. It is literally everywhere. Richard L. Spencer, he was the leader of the Winstons. He didn't even find out about any of this until the mid-90s, when a journalist just happened to call him for an interview. Can you imagine? And for him, it wasn't just about the money. He felt like his art, his creation, had been stolen. And this leads to the most devastating part of the whole story. On one side, you have a global sound that powered multi-million-dollar industries. And on the other, you have the man whose hands and feet actually created it, Gregory Coleman.
He struggled with homelessness and passed away in 2006, completely broke. He never received a single cent for creating the most famous drum beat in the world. It's just heartbreaking.
This tragedy, it brings up these huge questions about art, ownership, and what's right and wrong in the digital age. But it also leads to a surprisingly heartwarming final chapter, one driven by the very community that was built on his work.
I mean, really, think about it. Who owns a rhythm? It's a genuinely tricky question. Copyright law has always been pretty good at protecting melodies and lyrics, but a drum beat? That's way harder to pin down. Because of this legal gray area, the Amen break became a kind of digital folk music, passed from creator to creator, belonging to everyone, and yet to no one.
But then, in 2015, something amazing happened. A British DJ started a GoFundMe campaign, and the idea was simple. Let's collect a voluntary royalty from all the fans and producers out there and give it to the band's surviving leader, Richard Spencer. The campaign just went viral. It was a chance for the entire electronic music community to finally say thank you. And in the end, they raised over £24,000. But you know, it wasn't really about the money. For Richard Spencer, who was apparently moved to tears, it was about the validation, that final public acknowledgement from a generation of musicians that his band's work mattered.
So today, the Amen break isn't just a sample, it's a living piece of our shared digital culture. It's a sound that connects the analog soul of the 1960s to the digital chaos of today. It's like a ghost from 1969 that is still making us all dance.
The story of the Amen break is it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most influential creations are the ones we don't even notice at the time. It really leaves you with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? In an age where we're creating and sharing content constantly, which of our little 6-second moments might just end up lasting forever?